Who was Wundt? Wilhelm Maximilian Wundt, 1832–1920. The history of modern psychology begins with Wilhelm Wundt and the University of Leipzig in Germany. Wundt's theories changed the view of man as possessing a mind or soul to one of man seen as an animal, subject only to stimulus-response factors. Since then, modern psychology has more and more aligned with the behaviorist view of man as a beast to be controlled by placing him in suitable controlled environments. Education, according to Wundt, was that subjecting the student to the proper experiences by which to form his identity and behavior. It eventually led to Pavlov, Stalin and Chinese Communist brainwashing. By 1892, the stage was set for the propagation of Wundt's laboratory psychology into modern education. The first generation of Wundtian teachers founded modern departments of psychology all over the Western world, aimed at submerging the student into the social organism. It was a perfect fit for the growing collectivist mentality and the centralizing of government in Europe and other countries affiliated with the Rand Corporation. -02. Man is an animal, whose actions are always reactions. He has no free will or self-determinism. Education, therefore, is the art of giving and withholding stimuli. The primary categories are not right and wrong, but feeling good and feeling bad. It leads to a society of gratification, not of reason and responsibility. One is to adapt to one's environment, not change the environment ethically for one's own and society's benefit. Wilhelm Wundt pioneered the concept of mankind as a biochemical machine, and some of us know where this leads to, in terms of transhumanism for the masses. Wundt can be seen as the forefather, leading to a term coined brainwashing. According to Edward Hunter in his book Brainwashing, the story of men who defied it is clearly explained. Hunter declared, brainwashing was the new procedure, built up out of all earlier processes of persuasion, using the Pavlovian approach to make people react in a way determined by a central authority, exactly as bees in the hive. -03. The existing system of education is little more than a conditioning mechanism, wrote Professor Anthony C. Sutton in his book, Secret Establishment. He explained, it has little to do with education in the true sense, and a lot to do with control of the individual. This requires suppression of individualist tendencies and careful spoon-feeding of approved knowledge. According to Paolo Liani in his book The Leipzig Connection, Wundt's theories have been imported successfully to countries affiliated with the Rand Corporation, and were greatly accepted in Europe. The connection with the Rockefeller fortune set Wundt's ideas on the road to controlling modern education, the new science of education. Modern education has been taken over by charlatans in a neo-feudalistic framework, with no interest in education, only in control, with the militant secularist movement so enormously successful in commandeering education for its own evil mind control purposes. Charlatizers, its change agents and government centralizers, they all do their part in taking over the education system. The imposition naturally requires the control of people's thinking. Otherwise people begin to catch on that they are being systematically deceived and betrayed. -04. In actual practice, modern psychology deals almost exclusively with physiology, brain chemistry, neurology, genetics and the behavior of the biological organism stimulus-response, completely disregarding and ignoring the mind, one's inner self, and more to the point, one's true and vital self. The dictionaries will sooner or later remove the concept of mind completely from the definition, following the lead of official psychology as taught in universities and colleges. Qualities and functions of a mind, such as thinking, imagining, analyzing, placing attention, will, conceptualizing, moral choices, and intention, are things which have been largely ignored, never adequately investigated, and omitted completely from the current study of the mind known as modern psychology. Doesn't it seem strange to anyone that the official study of the mind, modern psychology, currently has very little to do with the mind, and never in its history adequately examined the makeup and functioning of the mind? -5. Ignoring the inner mental and emotional functioning of a person. Psychology has instead concentrated on observable physical behavior of the human organism almost exclusively. The environment as cause and the resultant human behavior as effect are the current accepted way to view and understand the single person and society. The elitist psychiatrists, sociologists, and educators have no moral problem with doing anything at all to each one of us, as long as it brings about world peace, harmony, order, or any of the other vague conceptual generalities they concern themselves with, while completely ignoring the actual individual human being. Under the modern view of psychology, one is to be controlled because he is an animal, understandable only and completely by stimulus-response factors. The philosophical basics of Wundt's theories have spread throughout all subjects and form a subtle ideological underpinning to the accepted views of the modern world. It is part of the world view unconsciously accepted by most people. It is important to realize these ideas and related practices are invalid, severely biased, based upon opinion presented as fact, and have had disastrous effects upon modern society in the areas of morality, crime, education, family, politics, economics, and health. -06. Since Wundt and his successors' theories deny self-determinism, it naturally follows that there is no possibility, within this system of thought, for the notion of personal responsibility. The actual source of responsibility, creativity, originality, morality, decency, integrity, and even devotion, is swept under the rug. The implementation of oppressive psychiatric theories and practices has actually caused situations that tend to prove the theories out. If one takes any 100 people, places them in a prison, denies them freedom, treats them with no respect, denies all human decency, and allows no education, joy or creativity, any observer of these people will come to the conclusion that mankind inherently is degraded, hopeless, and undeserving of respect and decent treatment. -07. Similarly, spreading the belief that a person is nothing more than an animal only to be appropriately controlled, has had the effect of creating the reality where this seems to be true. Watch what you believe and practice, because it tends to create the situation whether actually true or not. Environment does influence people, but it's not the whole picture. And it's not an approach that will uplift the individual and his societies. Decent, uplifting, positive, and nurturing environments tend to result in happy, successful people. Negative, decadent, immoral, and self-denying environments tend to result in unhappiness and failure. The implementation of psychological theories and psychiatric practices lead directly to the second example above. Lastly, the current behavioral approach to psychology implies someone or somebody to control the behavior. Who decides what children should do and act like? Who decides what ideas should be allowed to exist and what ideas shouldn't? Who decides what is desirable for a future society? I guarantee that the answer to these questions does not include any one of us or our opinions. -08. The harmful results of denying the mind. When the mind is denied, so ultimately is every good and decent thing that emanates from it, including creativity, self-determinism, responsibility, morality, reason, and a value of life itself. The current decadent notion of mankind without a mind or inner personality, considered only as an animal or a biological organism, has been institutionalized into the theories and practices of modern civilization in the media, sociology, education, government, economics, health, and of course, psychology and psychiatry. This has had disastrous consequences in the form of increasing crime, divorce, violence, and decreasing levels of education, morality, personal responsibility, social stability and sanity. Simply, when the source of life itself for the individual and society is denied, oppressive practices parading as science surface and the quality of life and sanity rapidly deteriorates. This is the exact condition of modern civilization. Psychiatric lobotomy, electric shock treatment, psychoactive drugs, behavioral manipulation, mass population control, and social development instead of intellectual education in the schools serve as a few examples. It has become popular in modern society for people to toss off, giggle about, ridicule and flippantly criticize any alternative subject of the mind that is not in synchron with mainstream media topics of peer groups or in synchron with public authorities.